So I want to begin this morning talking about education reform. Why can't we get it right? We were talking at dinner last night that there's a lot of work to be done before us, as we can see Baltimore City, Ferguson, all around the country, and there are stories that we don't even know about that are actively being engaged in right now. And my first slide says that at this time our educational culture is inappropriately focused, and therefore our results are self-defeating. You've got so many educators who are so tired right now. I was in Buffalo last week, and we had about 700 educators who assembled to hear me speak about my book, Do You Know Enough About Me to Teach Me? And I was the only black person in the room, Dr. Green. And it did make me feel uncomfortable because we belong to this great profession, the greatest profession that ever was or ever will be, and I reminded them of that. But it was interesting when we first started because 700 people sat in the back of the auditorium. And so I went up and I said, I've been told as your speaker this morning to make this announcement. There are a few seats available down front if you so choose to come. And it baffled me that we have one set of expectations for children, but we live by another set. And so on the plane that afternoon, it propelled me to really rethink and refocus. And along those lines, those of you who know me know I'm an avid golfer. Check. And so in this little bag this morning, I have two very special golf balls. One is the 2015 Masters Titleist Pro V1. Check. The other, ladies and gentlemen, is a golf ball that on eBay right now is selling for $150. This is a 1933 Masters logo golf ball. Titleist Pro V1. Check. So when I go home, which Angela and I, today, we're going home, and I'm off for the next 2 days. You know where I'll be. On the golf course, all day. And so I have to make a decision as to whether I will play with one of these golf balls in a tournament this weekend, right? So my focus, therefore, will be do not lose one of these valuable golf balls. So if I'm hitting on a hole that has water to the right and woods to the left, I've got to somehow hit this golf ball down the fairway so that it's safely landed and I can take my next shot into the green. Follow me? Now, these golf balls are so valuable to me that in my mind, there's no way I'm going to lose them. As Alan Blankstein said in his book, failure is not an option. So we've got to find a way in education, ladies and gentlemen, to not allow our children to fail because we value them so much. But what's happening is we value one group of students at a different measure than we value others. I am one of those students that was valued less than others. Check. Ninth grade, one of my counselors says he should be in AP English. One of my teachers said, why? This is not normal for us to propel students. Well, what she wanted to say was an African-American male into an AP English class. Well, I ended up being the only African-American male in that class. And I ended up having to work 4 or 5 times harder just to prove that I belong there. But what happens to those children that are not in that focus cycle? And we get to a point of asking what happens to the teachers that work hard every day, but their results are self-defeating because they're getting the same results. Even though they're working hard, doing those things, adhering to daily practices that should ensure success. But at the end of the day, when those standardized tests come back, what we have to realize is oftentimes tests measure things that can't be measured. Check? Like a student who makes a decision, I'm not going to drop out of school because I belong to the coalition of schools educating boys of color, because we value education. How can that be measured? Until we look further, ladies and gentlemen, and I read, rarely do we find men who willingly engage in hard, solid thinking. There's an almost universal quest for easy answers and half-baked solutions. Nothing pains some people more than having to think. So we assemble here today to think. And you are in a room of education thought leaders. My God, I sat across from Dick Allington at dinner last night. My God, I come today, I'm sitting next to Dick Allington. Dick Allington is a legend. Check? And he's saying, Stephen, Stephen. I'm like, damn, Dick called my name. Huh? I mean, where else are you going to go to be able to sit next to this amazing new superintendent down in Jacksonville who was trained by one of the best in Miami? Where else are you going to go to be able to talk to Irvin Scott from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? Only American Reading Company can do this. Where else can you go to have dinner with somebody who worked with Martin Luther King Jr., who rode with him, who labored with him? Where else can you go? This is amazing and certainly priceless. You can't pay for this. We get to a point where we need to be challenged to think more. But I believe that successful schools plan under the direction of reason and act without regard to failure, which is what Dr. Green alluded to last night. And he said the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said that we will never be free until we get rid of fear of failure. He also said, and the love of money, that he's mastered the first but not the latter. We get to a point where we have to define success, which is more than a desire, it is a behavior. And we ask you to act accordingly. It starts with you, leaders. Not only superintendents, but teachers are leaders as well. Literacy folks are leaders as well. I believe that we should go so far as to attest that children, students, are leaders. And that's being proven around our country. Characteristics of the great ones. Great leaders grow. I just heard Ron Walker say at his age, and he didn't mention what that was, he is still open to being mentored. What a powerful statement for somebody who is already accomplished. We have to continue to learn and grow. Great leaders are purpose-driven. We don't get burned out because of what we do. We get burned out because we forget why we do it. And so this is a great reminder, ladies and gentlemen, of why we do the work we do. Check? We were all put here to be great. Each and every one of us has gifts. Some of you are fortunate enough to have multiple gifts. It's just as I go into classrooms around the country, I see students who are sitting in classrooms that are disengaged. And I see teachers who are fully engaged in activities, but they're confusing activities with achievement. Check? And we've got to get to a point where our focus becomes laser-like, that we carefully plan and we skillfully execute so that we work smarter, not harder. We need your greatness because we have children who are suffering. We have children who have lost hope. And you and I know that when a child does not have hope, he or she doesn't have a chance. And so we assemble here not to just be inspired and uplifted and reminded of why we do what we do. The work is back in your home. So again, the important factor here is that you go back and you do something, that you engage in active work in what Ron Walker called a movement. Sometimes the greatest messages come out of the greatest messes. And ladies and gentlemen, we're in a mess in public education, where people have lost faith in the public schools. They've lost faith in the process. And we've got to get to a point where we can't become so good at telling people what to do, but many of us have to go back and do it. Check? If we want a standard of excellence, then we have to show people what that looks like. And so we assemble here at American Reading Company, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, today, May the 6th, to begin that process of a new standard of excellence. Our task, rise above all that's happening. Rise above Baltimore. Rise above Ferguson. Rise above all those unknown entities that struggle every day. We've got to rise above it. Before you begin your journey, let's fill you up here today at ARC. Thank you so much.